Welcome back to the I Can't Sleep podcast. I'm your host, Dominic Fontaine, and thanks for taking the time and listening. The story I'm telling you today is about Amy Richardson and her connection with spirits. I interviewed Amy Richardson, who's a local in Cabot, who says she's had many encounters with spirits and unusual events. She started out by saying her first event took place when she was 12 and lived in Hardwick in a big farmhouse across from the cemetery. She woke up in the middle of the night in a cold sweat, crying, not knowing what was wrong. She ran to her mother and told her, "Something's wrong with Grandma." Amy's mother grabbed the phone and called Grandma's house, to where later Amy found out that she unfortunately had a stroke and was in the hospital. Further in her life, when she was in high school, the ghost and spirit encounters became a running joke, where a lot of the kids bullied her for it, but she didn't care because she knew she was different. She would have dreams often that didn't make sense to her, where she would see another person's life, a short glimpse of what they experienced and what they saw. Amy later found another empath who told her, when you're an empath, you have a connection to spirits that allow you to feel and see what they want you to see. At that moment, she was interested, yet also terrified. She remembers all those weird dreams and events that she's had, and now realizes that it's a spirit taking her through a journey of their life and their experience. And if you accept that, it allows the spirit to be at peace. When Amy was in her teens, she had this dream where she was walking through a funeral home where she saw a beautiful yellow rose wreath and pictures hanging on the wall. But she couldn't figure out who the funeral was for. 3 days later, her grandmother unfortunately passed away. When her and her family went to the funeral, it was an exact copy of her dream, from the roses to the pictures hanging from the wall. It was like a sense of deja vu. She was frozen in place, not knowing what to do. From fright, she had to sail out from the funeral on a bench and started to understand her connections with the spirits. She had this experience when she was driving. As she was driving, she came over a hill in a thick fog, where she comes to a complete stop. And she sees a familiar face of a relative who recently passed away before this event. This relative was just standing in the middle of the road. She questioned if the person was even there, or if she was just imagining it. As she started to gather herself, the relative disappeared in an instant. Which then Amy continues to drive, and she comes around the sharp corner on the hill. There was a giant moose crossing the road. She thought to herself, maybe the relative was slowing her down to avoid the collision with the moose and prevent her with a car crash. Amy has a recurring dream, and this is what she had to say about it.
I have a reoccurring dream that an ancestor of mine presents himself. I am sitting in this beautiful field with a campfire in front of me. It's peaceful and calm, and I can hear the animals around me. And I blink for a second, and then when I open my eyes, there's this beautiful black bear in front of me, like probably from me to you, just across the campfire. Mm-hmm. And I don't feel afraid at all. Like, it's very calm. It's like I know this bear. It's the most kind of almost bizarre feeling in the world, because you would think you'd be terrified, right?
Yeah.
But there's something about the bear that feels familiar to me. And then I sit there and I just kind of stare at the bear for a little while, and he stares back at me, and then I blink and he's gone. But across the field is my ancestor. And I've talked to many Native American friends of mine, and it's clear that this dream reoccurs every night for a period of time when I'm at a point in my life where I feel like things are not going in the direction they should be going, or I feel disconnected from my heritage and nature in some way. Mm-hmm. And it's like he's reaching out to me to say, hey, you're off track, get back on track.
And that concludes this episode of I Can't Sleep podcast. And once again, thanks for listening, and have a great night.